So I wanted to do a food plot update on all the food plots because I have them all planted. This one I planted in buckwheat, and that was in late spring. So this is probably got about 2 months growth on it. And then I'll go to the north. This is the south side of the pond. Then the north side of the pond, I'll show you that. That's planted in honey hole, Antler King honey hole. It's a brassica mix, and I planted that 2 weeks ago. And then the rest of the food plots were planted about a month ago. And I'll show you all those. And then the last food plot and my trail I had planted 3 days ago. So we'll see if those started germinating or not. But this is the buckwheat. And this is really poor soil on this side of the pond. And I planted buckwheat because it does well in poor soils, and it did pretty good. I don't see a lot of browsing on it from the deer. I see some, but I read that it takes a couple years for the deer to kind of figure out what kind of, or that they, that this is a food source. So I'll probably plant this a couple more times. There's another nipped one. There's one. And see if they start hitting it harder. I know once they figure it out, they hit it hard. It's a very palatable and high protein food. So it's pretty sparse. I guess I think I could plant clover underneath this, and I would think it would do well. So I might try that next year. Do a mix, because there's a lot of weeds underneath this stuff, you can see. So here's the northeast side of the pond food plot, and we're in desperate need of rain. So I'm kind of getting screwed by that right now, but this is pretty sparse in here. A lot of weeds here. There's some brassica growing. There's some clover from what I tilled up. It's growing back. This side did not do well in honey hole last year. I was hoping that the lime would take effect, and tilling under some red clover and stuff would help. But the lack of rain, I think, is working against me, and this trail is not doing well. There's some brassicas coming, but you can see how dry it is. So this is after one more week. We finally got rain on Friday, and then today is Sunday, the 26th, and August 26th, and it rained this morning too, so hopefully these will take off. So in this plot, I tilled under everything, and you can see all the grass that's growing back in. So next time I'm gonna have to kill it with glyphosate and try that route. So this is on the northwest end of the pond, and you can see that this is coming up a little taller and better, just like last year. It's still pretty sparse in spots, but definitely need some rain, and there's really none in the forecast for at least another 4 or 5 days. But this is four weeks of growth. Real sparse here. I don't know why that happens. I have a trail cam pic of a good-sized bear walking through here. July 5th, I believe. I also came in here because it's so sparse down this trail and everything. A lot of these food plots I filled in with winter rye. So I spread this 2 days ago, as it was raining, and you can see that it's starting to germinate. So that should fill in all these spots and also choke out the weeds that would normally have grown. So we're on the far side of the north food plot. We'll see how that's coming in. Here's my small food plot I planted in Game Changer from Antler King. It's a clover and canola, which is a brassica mix. So the clover will come back next year, and the brassica will be good for this fall as a hunting plot. I came in here a few days ago and threw some more seed from a different mix here just to fill this in, because it didn't seem to catch that, obviously, and also in the bare spot up there. But the brassica is starting to kick off here. It's about 5-6 inches. Now I'll go around the corner here and check out that apple plot. See how that's doing. That's planted in Lights Out, which is oats and brassica. Again, this is 1 week later. So this is the start of the apple plot, and I just wanted to show you. I hit this 3 days ago because I wanted some different food. There's my tree stand, elevated box blind there, and this is 3 days ago, and it's already starting to come up. And this has got turnips, brassica. It's called succotash. It's from Deer Creek seed. But this looks like it's coming in really nicely. And these look like bear tracks. Yeah, so that was recently. Because like I said, I planted this 3 days ago. So he's around here somewhere. I have a mineral lick right behind me, about 50 yards. And I've got a couple pictures of bears on that, so I think one hangs around in this area. He doesn't look too big, but there is a larger one that was walking down the food plot north of the pond that we got a picture of too. But anyway, this food plot, and this one is really coming up now. This was planted 4 weeks ago. You can see how tall this is. Almost a foot. This trail really came in nice. Of course, the main part of the food plot didn't come in as nice, but this is nice and thick. It's got oats in it. This should be a good spot. I got my tree stand there, which is enclosed. I don't have a shot until he gets up here. That'd be about a 30-yard shot for bow. But I do plan on putting a tree stand. I haven't quite decided yet, either here or on this side. And I would hunt it with the north wind. North is that way. Hoping that the deer come this way into the food plot around the corner. I wouldn't hunt that stand very often, simply because the deer could come out of the bedding and down that trail too. So, but during prime time, I might sit in that stand. Yeah, in spots this is just coming up awesome. But out here on the main plot, it's sparse. I did come through here and I planted wheat over the top of this. So I don't know if it's going to germinate or not. But I just wanted to try to fill in the gaps. The deer are already feeding on this brassica. And it's August. You can see they're nipping tons of the tops. Right there, some of the turnips are growing. But a lot of this has been browsed. And they're hitting the oats too. It doesn't look like it has much though. But they are eating them. I also have some high bush cranberries. One's there and one's there. Hazelnuts. There's a hazelnut here. There's 4 of them. I planted apple trees in here. 3 of them are still growing. And I have a bunch of pumpkins growing in here. I got 3 different pumpkin plants growing. 3 or 4. This is a little wet spot. I might take the tractor and just make that into a little pond if that's going to continue always being wet. There's a deer running. He must have been bedding on the back side of this. I still got to cut trails so the deer can access in and out of here and feel comfortable, because right now it kind of feels a little walled off, I believe, for them. You can see I want to cut access points here, here, and a couple coming out so they don't feel confined. So here's my trail. I planted this with one of those throw and grow type mixes. You can see the clovers coming up and some of the ryegrass. I don't know if you can see that. This is very shady in here. So I'm interested to see how this does. I think this winter I might take out some of these trees just to let in more light. So last year is the first time I've ever planted any type of food plot, but I planted brassica on the north side of my food plot, and or north side of my pond, and the deer fed on it just a little bit. I saw evidence of them browsing and stuff, but right when the first couple frosts hit, that's when they just decimated it. Within 2 weeks it was gone, out of a 1/4 acre food plot, and it brought in tons more deer. From the first little chipmunk right here, from the first year I saw probably 4 times as many deer just from putting in a 1/4 acre food plot on my 200 acres of land. I saw tons more tracks during the winter, and like I say, 4 times as many deer from what I estimate as far as hunting, the amount I saw during hunting. So now I've planted 2.5 acres of food plots, and I've planted brassica, and now I think the deer, in the beginning last year, they didn't know what brassica was. We're in a large tract of woods near the Flambeau State Forest in Wisconsin, so there's no agriculture around here, and I don't think there's that many people probably have food plots around here, so they didn't know exactly what it was. But this year I have brassica planted in that food plot, and you can see the browse already happening in August. So hopefully it makes it till hunting season. I hope they don't just decimate it right away, but so deer do eat brassica before the first frost. I mean, they will start consuming it before that. I also wanted to show you this trail that I planted in Throw and Grow. It's an annual ryegrass, or there was a ton of annual ryegrass in here, and I don't know if you can see, it is growing, but this is a very shady trail. I just wanted to throw it down and see what happens. We got a bunch of rain the last couple days, so I think if I cut some trees down this winter to let in more light, this trail will be a lot thicker. This is still that trail. There's my food plot, the apple plot, about 140 yards away. And I have my bedding area back here that I hinge cut. I have to do some more cutting in there to let in even more light. Now that it's summertime, I see that I have to open up the canopy even more, but it starts about 100 yards in. And I have a watering hole I put in here. It's about 3 feet deep, and it also looks like we're going to have quite a few acorns this year. They're starting to drop. So I do believe I'm going to set a tree stand up in here. I think this would be a good spot when they get out of their bedding to get a drink before they hit the food plot in the evening. Maybe even this maple tree right here, I'll put a ladder stand in. Now we're going to follow this trail around. It goes on the other side of this food plot to my largest back food plot that I planted 3 days ago. Let's see if that's coming up. Okay, this is my farthest back food plot that I planted 3 days ago. It turns here, I'll show you, and then goes on the back side of that woods. And it's starting to kick off. I planted in a few different clovers, Dorano, Ladino, I believe, and it also has a bit of brassica mixed with it. I believe it's rape, and I put in some chicory, so the chicory and clover will come back. So this is continuing down that trail. We have a lowland swamp here, which hopefully will bottleneck the deer. My bedding is back here about 300 yards. I'm hoping the deer will come through these woods, hit this trail, and start working their way into the main food plot. I see a ton of tracks already the last few days after I've disced this up. And this is another tree stand that I won't use very often except the best days. But right in this hemlock is where I want to put a stand. It'll be real good cover right in there. So this is the rest of the plot. You can see that little twinge of green. So this was planted in a clover before, but it had a ton of weeds. And when I added to it, I just disced the whole thing and replanted it. So some of these clovers are really coming up quickly. And that's the reason for that. Unfortunately, some of this grass is going to be coming up quickly too, I'm sure. But it goes on the back side of that too. Again, I overseeded this with winter rye. It's starting to germinate to fill in all the holes. Did real well over here. This is a mix of white clovers, brassica, and chicory.